The summer heat in Riverton, Georgia, was thick enough to make tempers short. But for Officer Bradley Kent, his temper was always short, heat or not. He was known in the department for his aggressive old-school policing style, though everyone knew old school was just a polite way to say he treated black residents like they didn't belong in their own town. On this day, Bradley wasn't looking for trouble, but trouble, or what he thought was trouble, was about to cross his path. At the same time, 34-year-old Monica Hayes, dressed in plain jeans, a light blue blouse and sneakers, was walking out of a small bakery with a paper bag in her hand. She had just moved to Riverton for a very specific reason, one that would soon shake the entire police department. Bradley spotted Monica across the street. She wasn't speeding, she wasn't jaywalking, she wasn't doing anything, but in his mind she looked suspicious. He whipped his cruiser to the curb, jumped out and barked. "Hey, where you think you're going in such a hurry?" Monica paused, confused. "Excuse me, I'm just heading home." But Bradley stepped closer, the smell of stale coffee and cigarettes on his breath. He asked for her ID without reason, standing so close she could see the dried sweat on his neck. When Monica calmly asked why she was being stopped, Bradley's face tightened. Then, in a moment that would haunt him forever, he spat, literally spat, on the ground right by her shoe and said, "You people always think you can question authority." What Bradley didn't realize was that across the street, a teenager named Andre, sitting on his porch, had been recording the entire encounter on his phone. Andre's phone caught everything: the spit, the tone, the aggression. And while Monica didn't raise her voice, her expression was something Andre wouldn't forget. It wasn't fear, it was calculated calm. "Officer," Monica said softly, "you might want to be careful with how you treat strangers. You never know who you're talking to." Bradley smirked. "Lady, I've been doing this for 20 years. I know exactly who I'm talking to." He was wrong. Bradley called in for backup, claiming a non-compliant suspect. Within minutes, 2 more officers arrived. They questioned Monica like she was a criminal, even peeking into her bakery bag as if muffins could be contraband. Monica didn't resist. She handed over her ID, but the name on it made Bradley hesitate for just a second. Monica L. Hayes. It sounded familiar, but he brushed it off. They let her go after 10 long, humiliating minutes. Monica simply walked away, her bakery bag still in hand, never once raising her voice. Bradley thought the incident was over. It was just beginning. 3 days later, every officer in the Riverton Police Department was told to gather in the conference room for an emergency announcement from the mayor. Bradley strolled in late, sipping coffee. The room buzzed with whispers. At the front stood Mayor Caroline West, a sharp woman with silver hair, smiling proudly. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "meet your new police chief, Chief Monica Hayes." The room went silent. Bradley nearly dropped his cup. And there she was, the same woman he'd spat at, standing at the front of the room, now wearing a crisp navy uniform with gold insignia. Her eyes met his, and that same calm expression was there. But this time, Bradley felt his stomach drop. Chief Hayes took the podium. Her voice was steady, professional, but with an edge of steel. "I came to Riverton to bring change, to rebuild trust between this department and the community. That trust starts here, with how we conduct ourselves." Bradley stared at the table, sweat beading on his forehead. Then Chief Hayes said something that made every officer shift in their seat. "In my first week, I've reviewed several citizen-recorded videos, including one involving an interaction right outside Johnson's bakery. That officer will be meeting with me directly after this meeting." Bradley's coffee suddenly tasted like ash. Later, Bradley was called into her office. The door closed behind him. Monica leaned forward. "Officer Kent, I know about your history, the complaints, the warnings, but what you did 3 days ago was more than just unprofessional, it was personal." Bradley muttered something about misunderstandings and respect for authority, but Monica's expression didn't change. "I'm not here to humiliate you. I'm here to hold you accountable. You'll be placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. And Bradley, next time you decide to spit on someone, remember, they might just outrank you." Word traveled faster than anyone expected. Andre's video, recorded on a simple smartphone, became the spark that ignited a firestorm across Riverton and beyond. Within hours, it was shared on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and in less than 2 days, the video had been viewed by over 2 million people. It wasn't just the video itself, raw and unfiltered, that grabbed attention. It was what the video represented, a clear example of disrespect and racial prejudice, happening in broad daylight, caught on camera, with no one to deny it. Local activists quickly seized on the footage. Community leaders called emergency meetings. Social media influencers shared the video with passionate calls for accountability, and hashtags like *justice for Monica* and Riverton needs change ** trended nationally. In town, people gathered at churches, coffee shops, and community centers, talking about the incident as if it was a turning point. Many praised Monica Hayes, not only for her calm and dignified response in the face of blatant disrespect, but for what she represented: change, hope, and a break from the past. At a packed meeting of the Riverton Community Coalition, Pastor James Walker stood before the crowd, holding his Bible but speaking as a man tired of injustice. Chief Monica Hayes showed us something powerful that day. She didn't react with anger but with strength. She showed respect when it wasn't given, and she reminded us all that dignity is not just a word, it's a way of life. People in the room nodded and clapped. Some wiped away tears. Monica's story quickly spread beyond Riverton. National news outlets picked up on the video, often portraying her as a symbol of what leadership in law enforcement should look like. But as the praise for Monica swelled, the backlash for Bradley was just as fierce. Comments on the video and related posts were brutal. People called out his behavior for what it was: a disgusting display of racism and abuse of power. "This man should never wear a badge again." "Disgusting. He's the reason people don't trust the police." "How many other black folks has he treated like this?" Others shared painful, personal stories of their own encounters with Bradley. Linda Simmons, a local schoolteacher, posted, "This isn't the first time Officer Kent harassed someone in our neighborhood. Years ago, he stopped my son for looking suspicious and called him a thug in front of neighbors. No reason, just because of the color of his skin." Marcus Hill, a small business owner, shared, "Bradley wrote me up for loitering when I was just waiting for my wife outside my own shop. This is who he is." These stories weren't isolated. As they multiplied, a clear pattern emerged. It wasn't just a bad day or a single moment of anger. Bradley had built a reputation over years for targeting black residents with unnecessary stops, verbal abuse, and intimidation tactics. Inside the Riverton Police Department, the mood shifted drastically. Bradley, once known for his loud presence and brash confidence, suddenly found himself on the outside. Some officers, particularly younger ones and those who had quietly complained about Bradley's behavior before, began quietly supporting Monica's leadership. They saw her as a fresh start, someone who could bring the department back from the edge. Detective Sarah Mills, one of the department's few female officers, told a colleague, "Finally, someone is holding him accountable. We've been waiting a long time for this." But not everyone was happy. The older, more entrenched officers grumbled behind closed doors. They saw Monica's reforms as a threat to how things have always been. Some whispered that she was too soft or that Bradley was being unfairly targeted. Despite this quiet resistance, no one publicly defended Bradley. His name became toxic in the department. Even officers who had once shared beers with him at the station began to avoid his calls. Outside the station, Bradley's life started to unravel. The viral video brought an intense spotlight on him that no amount of bravado could shield against. Local bars refused to serve him. His usual hangouts grew cold and unwelcoming. Friends and acquaintances who had once joked with him began crossing the street to avoid him. His family faced backlash too. His teenage daughter was bullied at school after classmates saw the video. His wife, overwhelmed by the public shame and the media attention, stayed away from home more often. Bradley spent nights drowning his shame in alcohol at the local dive bar, muttering about how things used to be. But deep down, he knew things had changed, and not for the better from his perspective. The pressure on the police department grew. Civic groups organized peaceful protests demanding transparency and reforms. The mayor held emergency press conferences pledging to support Chief Hayes and to clean house if necessary. At one of the community town halls, held in the high school gymnasium, dozens of residents stood in line to share stories, many of them painful memories of past police encounters. Angela Simmons, a mother of 3, stepped to the mic. "We love our town, but we can't live in fear every time an officer stops our kids for no reason. It's time for a change." The room erupted in applause. Chief Hayes stood at the front, listening quietly. She knew this was just the beginning, a test of how deeply ingrained the issues really were and how much work lay ahead. Despite the chaos, Monica remained composed. She held several private meetings with department heads, community leaders, and advocacy groups. She knew that holding one man accountable was not enough. The whole system needed an overhaul, from the way officers were trained to how complaints were handled. She personally reached out to Bradley, offering him a chance to reflect and make things right. But the offer was met with silence or angry refusal. National media descended on Riverton. Interviews, talk shows, and opinion pieces debated the incident, using Monica's leadership as a hopeful example of change in law enforcement. But for Bradley, the attention only made things worse. He was labeled a racist, a bully, and a symbol of everything wrong with policing. His name was plastered across headlines. His photo cropped into memes and social media posts mocking his fall from grace. For Monica, the support was mixed with heavy burdens. She heard the stories of those who had been hurt by the system. She felt the eyes of the town on her every move. There were nights when she lay awake, wondering if she was doing enough, if she could really change decades of mistrust and pain. But every time doubt crept in, she reminded herself of why she had come home, to be the change. The fallout was just beginning, but one thing was clear: the days of silent acceptance and unchecked abuse in Riverton's police department were over. The town had witnessed what disrespect looked like in the harshest terms, and now they were watching to see if justice and respect could finally take its place. Chief Hayes began implementing reforms. Body cameras became mandatory, community meetings were scheduled weekly, and officers were retrained in de-escalation tactics. But behind the scenes, she faced resistance. Anonymous letters were slid under her door. A few officers accidentally forgot to log evidence. One night, her car tires were slashed. Through it all, Monica didn't flinch. She dealt with worse in her career: sexism in the academy, racism on the streets, even political sabotage in her last city. Bradley, meanwhile, was sinking deeper. With no badge, no paycheck, and a reputation in ruins, he began spending his nights at the local bar, complaining loudly about how things used to be. Weeks later, Bradley requested a private meeting with Chief Hayes. He claimed he wanted to apologize. She agreed, meeting him in her office once again. Bradley sat down, eyes darting everywhere except her face. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't know who you were. Monica interrupted. You shouldn't have to know someone's title to treat them with respect. Bradley swallowed hard. Then Monica slid a folder across the desk. Inside was a resignation form, already filled out, just waiting for his signature. He looked up at her, but she simply said, "It's time for you to decide if you're part of the solution or part of the problem." Bradley signed. Chief Hayes went on to transform Riverton's police department into one of the most trusted in the state. And Bradley, last anyone heard, he moved 3 towns over, working private security at a strip mall. The lesson was clear. Power is temporary, respect is earned, and you never know when the person you mistreat might just be the one signing your paycheck tomorrow.